Hello everybody, I hope you can hear me well. Just let me know if you do, or if I need to do any more changes to my setup, because we are not in my craft room, we are in my kitchen. So hello Renea, Gail, Judy, Beth, Gail, Cindy, who else is here? Maria. Okay, I didn't put a ticker on top. I can put it if need be. Actually, let me make a quick ticker really fast, because I had to do a lot of changes here so I can put everything here to work. Give me just a minute. Okay, now okay, let me make sure that I put this up in caps. Okay, I'm good with this. Let me make it not this. I'm trying to remember what is the setting to make it scroll. Okay, and I need to do not this. I think I need to do a filter. No, well, you know what, I'm not gonna put the text, because apparently on this one I don't have the scrolling filter. Anyway, so let's get to work. I have gotten a lot of questions and a lot of requests about this modified pedicure wand. And as I have explained before, but probably I didn't do enough showing for people to see exactly how this is supposed to work. And I have like a ton of cables here. There are a few tricks that you need to do in order to, where is this? This is here, and this has to go on top of this, in order to be successfully using the pedicure wand. Some of them might seem, just elementary, but for people who have not used something like this, obviously they wouldn't know. Hi, Ellen, Sharon, Karen, June, Robin, Jessica, Krista, Marietta, Sonia. Okay, so number one, when you get the wand will come with some discs of so-called sandpaper that is not really sandpaper. It's just made to sandpaper your heels. So you have to buy separately usually, and you'll find them in my influencer store, there's a section special for it. I'm going to post again the link. There's a section that is special for sanding, and you will have to buy a kit of sandpaper discs that are wet, for wet use, for use with water. Never ever sand polymer clay without water, because the dust is very, very fine and it will damage your lungs. It's exactly the same as if you work with mica powders or very fine powder pigments without using a wand, a mask. But in this case, it's the best thing to actually use sandpaper that can be used wet. Okay, so if you go in my Amazon influencer store, if you scroll down, you will find at one point, and let me actually get on the display, you will find, as you scroll down, because I tried to organize everything properly, and you scroll until you find the sanding supplies. Why you find several of the same there is because the prices change all the time. And because of that, I've just put all those suppliers there, because one day one might have it cheaper, another day another one might have it cheaper. But as you can see, there is this pad. I have some separate, but any of these kits of sandpaper will come with it. Well, it comes also with a little wheel that is to put in a drill, but instead of this wheel, you will actually have the platform of the pedicure wand. So the first thing that you want to do is to glue one of those sponge pads to your pedicure wand, because the pedicure wand comes just like this. Okay, and that's the first thing you want to do. Be very careful. You have to be very careful with two things. Number one, to get your I think very well in the middle, and because otherwise you're gonna have a little bit of a wobble and it's going to throw you off. And use a glue that is water safe. I personally use the Loctite in 2 parts and it works just fine. Then what I got, and you find it also in the store, I got this special organizer box that has the spots are perfect for placing these sandpaper discs, so it's very easy to do it. Another thing that I do by hand, yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but not all these discs come marked. Some of them do come marked, as you can see, but sometimes the marking is well off and you cannot really see it. I bought, I think, 2 or 3 different kits because they don't always have all the grits I need. But once I take them out of they come in little plastic bags. Once I take them out of the bags, I use water resistant marker to put the grit on the back. If you intend to sand resin as well, I suggest to buy also one of the kits that goes all the way up to 10,000 grit, because for resin you need a very much higher grit than for polymer clay, otherwise the resin will become a little bit cloudy. Now, the thing that I got, I'm always told, see, this one I didn't do because it's a 60 and I pretty much never use a 60. was, well, it wobbles. Mine wobbles. Oh my goodness, Finnegan. Since I got Finnegan, all my house is full of little hairs. Yes, it will wobble if you start with an area that is very uneven and you use a grit that is too high. Generally, sanding can be described as two steps, basic two steps. The first step is done for shaping and for removing. Okay, this is getting a little dizzying. Let me fix the focus. I've left it on autofocus and it keeps going up and down. Just a second. There we go. So the first one you will do with a little bit of a lower grit, because you will be shaping whatever irregularities you have. And if you have too high of a grit, then your pedicure wand will start doing like this if you don't hold it very firmly. And that's not something that we want, because remember that my main thing for finding a solution for sanding was because I have a lot of issues with my hands and because I don't want to tire my hands a lot, right? What you have to know is that you can go as low as I usually go, might go as low as 120 grit when I want to reshape something. You can easily reshape something. So that's the first step in sanding, the reshaping, the removing any kind of irregularities. The second step, and that might involve like 8 or 10 other steps, is to remove the scratches, because every time you have to go with about 200 to 400 depending on what type of clay you're sanding, higher grit to remove the scratches left by the previous grit until you get to a proper finish. Now, depending on what you are doing and how shiny you want it to be when you buff it, you can go only to like 1,000 or you can go as high as 2,000. I usually go, when it comes to translucent false stones, I might go, or something very, very shiny, I might go all the way up to 2,000. Okay, but most of the time I go 1,200, 1,500, something like that. And if it's something that doesn't really need to be super shiny, you know, like this for malachite, I would just go to 1,000. And I got several things here, and the good part is that you can actually work with it with very small pieces. It's not that big of a deal. And I got actually a few things here that I have to sand and I actually have to reshape. And hold on, let me grab my, because I have all my cabochons in. This still needs 600, this still needs 1,000, this still, you know. And let me see. This one is not this one. Okay, and this one, no, this one is quite fine. Sorry, I've been trying to get everything. Okay, this one is still needs a little bit of reshaping. So I'm going to use this one. This is a faux bumblebee, and I thought it would be a good. Actually, let's get this one, because this one needs a lot of reshaping, and I will show you how to. That one is too big. It might take too long. Let's get this one to show you how to fully reshape. Okay, so You're most welcome. Well, that was my main, as I said, that was my main thing, trying to find something, because I know my main age range of subscribers and followers is pretty much ladies over 45. And a lot of my viewers have one form or another of disability. No sé cómo se dice. Para pedicura. No sé cómo se dice en español. Okay, so I'm going to grab a 120 because, as I said, it's something that I definitely use for reshaping. And first, I am placing it in water, and then I'm going to place it here. Now, it might want to wobble because there is quite a bit of irregularity, and I'm going to wet it as well. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of flatten this area and flatten this area, so it would look more like, let me find one to give you an example. This one is a little large. To be more like this one. These ones were all shaped by sanding. So I'm going to do it more like this one. So I'm holding quite firmly this time. And see how I completely changed. The thing is that it saves you a lot of time. The time that you'd otherwise try to do the clay raw to be perfect when it's raw. You don't have to worry about that anymore, because you can fix it all with sanding. Okay, let me make sure that this one is, and careful on the corners, because you want your corners to be properly. Let's see, this one is a little bit bowed out, so I'm going to make it flat. And don't go all the way, because the next grits you're going to use are going to eat some of the clay as well. Yeah, it's not loud at all. I have two of them because when I sand a lot. I put everything in a 2 sand box, and then I reserve a day or two just for sanding. And yes, they can get, the one can get a little hot, and you have to let it cool off. It doesn't take long to cool off, but when that happens, all I do is just I turn one off and I turn the other one on. And I have one black and one pink because when I bought the second one, the black was cheaper. So that's why. Okay, so I'm pretty good. Now I'm going to round up these corners because I don't want a line. And I'm done with this grit. I'm going to take it off. And I'm going to go with the 240. Because now I start removing the scratches You know what I forgot to get? I forgot to get a paper towel. Just a second. And my reading eyeglasses. Okay. Finnegan is very mystified because I usually don't work on here. I work at the counter. So now he's quite mystified. What's Mama doing here? Okay, so all I have to do now is to remove the scratches. Be insistent a little bit, because if you're not, you're going to leave scratches. Then the flat. It still has the tendency to be a little wobbly. Whenever it's a little wobbly, you know that there you have an irregularity there that, see, if I let it go, it will try and go. See? This is if I don't hold it tight enough. But that's your sign that you have some irregularity there that makes the one jump. And you can also feel it with your finger. Okay, time for the next one. I'm going to just put them here so you can see what I used. Well, depends what you work with them, you know. I'm gonna grab a 400. I personally use the most 400 and 800. 400, 600, 800. So that's why I buy. It's not like a sandpaper is going to last forever. I mean, those little glass and whatever they use, carbide particles, they will get off. It gets a little bit warm. You can feel it right here. It's right here that it gets warm, but that's why I said, that's why I got 2 of them, so that I don't have to wait. Within 5 minutes it gets cooled off again. But the good part is that, number one, it doesn't it's wired, so you don't have to keep changing batteries and stuff. And number two, it's metal. It's not like that crappy polyfast, because as I said before, polyfast is actually a pedicure wand, and the same company sells the same product as pedicure wand, but they break so fast. So that's what I was looking for when I see how it tries to. But as I said, I didn't go all the way in because I have the next grits will eat some of the polymer clay, and I don't want to eat too much. And now this is the movement to do a round corner. But yeah, the sandpaper lasts like any sandpaper, depending on how much you use it. And sandpaper is not made to last forever. It's paper with little particles of stuff that as you use it, they get ground down. Okay, 400. Next one, 600. But it goes fairly fast, and I know that generally sanding for a good result takes a while, right? But with this, you can do the job that otherwise would take you like 3 or 4 times as long by hand. And also your hands don't hurt. That's your best bet. And another thing, I heard and I got questions like, if I varnish my pieces, I don't need to sand them, right? Not really. Not really. If you want even your varnish to look good, it's a good idea to still do a little bit of sanding. And the other thing is that depending what you use for varnish, uh, not all varnishes can be baked. I mean, if you try the Varathane and the Minwax, they might yellow out. Because if you do the cabochon and then you have to put the cabochon in a base, in a frame, in a setting, and you need to rebake it, you have to think that whatever varnish you use has to be oven proof, right? But the wand will heat up more whenever you do more of the shaping part, because of course it puts more strain on it, because when you're shaping you press a little bit harder. And always go towards the edges because that's where the little wheel rotates faster, obviously. You might be tempted to use the center, but that's not where the highest speed is. And now I'm going to go to the 1000, and then I'll show you another one of my secrets, how I do, why my cabochons are always so pretty and shiny. And try to put these well centered, because again, if you don't put them on well centered, it's gonna look like it wobbles and it's gonna make you dizzy, gonna give you a headache. It's not like it won't do the same job, it's just a little bit irritating. Now also, if your cabochon is going to be in an open setting, you want to work a little bit on the back as well. I normally would do it with the 800, but I'm just gonna go with the 1000 here. H? I didn't hold it right and it flew, but it's not the way that it would fly from a Dremel. Okay, now the way that I always do this, is when I get to 1000, even if I intend to go higher, I will do a pre-buff, because there are the small defects of sanding, you don't see them until you buff. I do have a buffer and polisher. Hold on, let me try and show you. Let me turn this around and show you. So that is my, I don't know if you can see well, that is my little table with the rock tumbler for beads and stuff, and a lot of stuff underneath with the medium. Then there's my oven table, and then there's my sanding table. And you can see I do have a tabletop buffer, but I also have two Dremels, and I have two for the same reason, that when I start working I have a lot to do, and they get hot too, you know, if you keep using them. Okay, let me grab a buffer. So these little buffing wheels are wool, and I did show about them. They are much better than the muslin. This is my kitchen, Jessica. It's not a room, it's my kitchen. It took, I don't know, it took me about close to 2 years to get all this. You know, I budgeted and I got a little bit of this and a little bit of that every month. So, as I said, these you can find on PolyClay, and they are fine wool, and they do a much better job than the muslin, and they never gouge. That's another good thing. Now, this is loud. Let me actually mute the microphone. Okay. So I didn't have room in the craft room for them anymore. That's why they are in the kitchen, and also because of the water, needing to use water. Uh, so let's go ahead and look at them and look at this in a close-up, and then we'll be able to see. Yeah, no, I have the same problem. Every time I sand, I have to redo my fingernail polish. Don't worry, you're not the only one. Okay. Now, Bumblebee Jasper is pitted, so any pitting that you see here, it was done on purpose. But you can see that I still do have some sanding lines. And all these tiny, tiny sanding lines are going to show, but that's not that big of a deal. What I'm interested is not to have areas that were not sanded properly. See, like here, I need to insist a little bit on this line because I want this to be rounded. And the same here. But this will be done with an 800. Here it looks okay. This rounded up. Here it is kind of okay. It still has a line. So I need to insist on the rounding. But the rest looks fairly good. So I'm going to go back to the 800. Okay, so let me grab my water back and let's go back to the 800. I did use this. Normally I use some kind of bowls I get at the Dollar Tree that you can get like a pack of 2 or 3 for $1. But I'm using this because I don't want it to topple. My laptop is there and I don't want to get it all messed up. Okay, so the 800 is strong enough to remove those tiny lines. So I'm going to go back and work on this rounding here. But I don't have any major areas that need. But no worries, I do have some of the stuff that's in the low grit box actually has some defects, and I'm going to show you. But this should be okay. I'm good. So going back to 1000, and this time I'm going to insist a little bit longer than I did the last time because I don't want to go past 1200. I'll show you that it looks pretty just with 1200. Finnegan! He started moving the chairs. Yeah, this is my dining table. I am lucky that I have a very big kitchen. And as you can see, the 1000 still takes quite a bit of clay off. Now, the other thing is, before changing the grit, make sure that your piece is well rinsed of the old grit remains, because those may be that wet dust can be a grit higher than the actual sandpaper you're using, and might leave streaks, might leave sanding lines. The main thing that you need, and why the reshaping is really good, a lot of times when you do cabochons, especially when you cut them using the cling wrap, the edges will slightly get raised and the very middle is a little bit dipped in. And no matter what you try to do, it's going to take you a long time to get rid of that circle around the center that's too high. So reshaping using a lower grit with the wand is really awesome. Okay, and this should be the final sanding. Yeah, and I get that issue with the nail polish, especially because with most of my fingers, the fingertips are numb because of the cervical spine damage. So I don't really feel what's going on. It happens sometimes if I am sanding by hand. It happened many times that I sanded my fingers to the flesh. I sanded off the skin off the tip of my fingers because I cannot feel. So why it's doing like this is because there's still a line here, and that's what is wobbling in the top. Okay, and let's do the back. Okay. Now let's see how it looks when it's buffed. I'll just use some alcohol and wipe your fingernails. I usually just don't bother. I just put some top coat and you're good to go. Fast dry top coat and you're good to go if I didn't sand off the nail polish. Okay. And I'm going to turn off the sound again. Sorry, I realized I have to talk about it before. Okay. Now, you saw me that I held this in different positions and that I dropped it at one point. It took it off my hand. Number one, if you're going to try to, when you have corners, if you're going to try to do this or this, it's going to take it off of your hand. Always approach a corner on an angle like this, because that's the only way that it's not going to get it out of your hand. Again, another thing is, if you keep your wheel at a 90 degrees angle, it will not do as good of a job as if you keep it slowly inclined. Just be careful, don't touch the cabochon on this area because it's gonna gouge it. But you can keep it either like this, or you can go like this at an angle. Just be careful because it's the same thing. Don't try to do the corners like this, it's going to throw it off of your hand. Always go like this. Going over a tip, go it like this. Don't try to go like this. And we get a pretty good thing. Let me put this back. Just for now. And let's refocus it again so we can look at it properly. Okay, now you can see it is pretty neat. I would honestly, I would on this one, I would go 1500 and then buff it a little bit longer than I did, but it was just to see how I have some little pouches in here, but that's fine. This is how the real stone would look like anyway. But I need to insist a little bit on some of the tip of the corners, but otherwise it's pretty neat, pretty realistic looking cabochon. But as I said, I would go a little bit higher on and as I said, it depends on the technique you use, it depends on the clay you use. But let me show you now how to work a straight, pretty much straight one, and reshape it a little bit. And I'm going to try to make it fast. This is a tortoise shell that I did for my sponsors. So let's go ahead and see. And as I said, on some of these things you don't see how pretty they are until you actually buff them. So let's go real quick with this. And I'm not even going to start with 120 because I don't want to do that much reshaping. I'm going to start with the 240 directly. Let me get my eyes on. A link to the cabochon. There's a, hold on a second. I have, this is one of my paid tutorials. And I had a giveaway with, guess the, but there is a presentation, an intro tutorial, an intro video for it. This is the bumblebee. Okay, so I'm gonna start with 240. And the other excellent thing why this is so good, because you can do the flat real easy. Oops, sorry, I know. Try to get it between, and also again it's the same thing, there is some irregularities. Finnegan is something else. He is, when he's in his, I want to play and I want to play now and I want to run and stuff, he's going to pester those two guys mercilessly. He's able to even wrestle Finnegan to Seamus to the ground. And Seamus is a fatso. He cannot do that to Connor. I think it's not because Connor is heavier, but because he's taller. And then just a little bit of rounding. So it already looks, hold on, I didn't bring my, and hi Lila, I didn't say, I didn't answer. So 4, and it's a little bit easier when you do flat, but you can do rounded without a problem because of this sponge that goes, you know, molds practically on whatever you're. Remember, my main thing with my hands is that the pinching movement always messes me up. And round, round, round. So normally what I do, I just get a whole bunch of cabochons, okay? And I do all that need reshaping with 120. I do the whole reshaping. Then I switch to the next grit and I do like 20 or 30 at a time with the same sandpaper. That's why I told you I have those boxes, like all these need 800, these need 1000, you know. But yeah, I have a ton of them, and hopefully as I catch up I'll be able to finish sanding them and putting them up for sale. There's quite a bit there. There's 4 tiger's eye, 4 Peter's side. And now I'm going to start rounding it up more, okay? But especially when you have translucent, you want to go not more than 200 at a time, increasing grit. And you kind of need to go to at least 1500, if not 2000. And again, make sure that you don't have any dust of the previous grit on it. So you saw how there was a little bit of irregularity on that end because it was making my one go wobble wobble. And as you can see, as I'm going through with the sanding, the piece becomes prettier and prettier. And the best is whenever you have stuff with mica shift in it. That is absolutely fabulous. And that one you don't see it until you buff it. Okay, I'm just only going to go to 1000 with it so that we can buff and you can see the differences when it's done, so I don't have to. I buy them, Galen. They are in the influencer store. I have several kits there with several grids. As I said, I bought like 2 or 3, and then one of them you can buy just a specific grid by itself. And as I said, I mostly use the 400, 600, and 800 because those ones remove the scratches from the shaping the best. So I most of the time I buy some 400, 600, 800 separately. Oops, sorry. Okay, now let's buff it and you'll see the difference. Okay, let me get it to the side. And let me actually zoom so you can see better how I'm buffing. Give me just a second. Trying to get the best. There we go. Now you should be able to see. No, that's another thing I forgot to say. I usually put it outside. I have an area near my porch where my trash cans go, and that's where I throw it. It can clog your drains. So don't put it down the drain. And thank you for asking that, because I had forgotten to talk about it. Okay, I'm gonna turn off the sound. Okay, so I'm almost there. I would go, as I said, I would go to like a 1500 with this one because you can still see some sanding lines. And by the way, the sanding lines is exactly what makes your clay not look shiny enough. But this is transparent. I'm trying to show it. Actually, let me get on this window because it should be better. It is. Ugh, let me remove the zoom. Duh. That on the floor is Whisper's feeding station. But as you can see, it is transparent. So it's a. Let's try this. There we go. You can see it's a transparent piece of polymer. So you can see the difference between the unworked one and the one that's been sanded and buffed. You see a better. Yeah, thank you. That's actually one of those films that you put on the window, and I got it there because it is thermal insulating. And my kitchen is on the west side of the house, so it gets a lot of sun and heat. So that's why it's there. And also it's privacy. So pretty much this is what the whole deal with this pedicure, modified pedicure wand. I didn't even use the other one because this one didn't get hot enough. But then when this, because this can get old and can separate. I mean, it's been close to, I mean, definitely more than half a year since I got the old one and I had to change it. But yeah, this is the big secret. It's not a big deal. It costs, you know how the Polyfast is an arm and a leg. This one costs, usually it's under $30 for the wand itself, and then you pay like $15 more for the discs. You don't have to buy everything at the same time. You can slowly build discs. Because as I said, don't think that I bought everything that I have at the same time. I just slowly got a little bit of stuff every month. And you can get yourself a pretty nice sanding setup with these ones and save your hands, do a great job, and not have to see sanding as a pain in the ass anymore, because it can be done, and it can be done easily and nicely. As I said, I still have some things here, and you can see they are all sanded and buffed using this kind of stuff. This is a faux Mexican opal and chevron amethyst, but they get just, you can do just a perfect job using just this. So I hope this was helpful for you, and if you don't have one yet, just go ahead and start budgeting. And you can even work on pens and on other things, because once this is perfectly, you don't have to worry so much about cutting all the cane slices perfect, because you can come with the sanding wand and just do everything perfectly nice. So this was pretty much it. I hope I didn't forget on any of the no, I said it is without the sanding wand, Lila. I hope I didn't forget any of the tips, and just try it and you will see. You heard the ladies in the chat, in the live chat, who got one, that they are all very, very happy. Hi, Chris. I didn't see you. I didn't look much at the chat because I had to be on with my eyes on what I was doing here. But yeah, pretty much this is it. And again, you can reshape even small stuff because you saw it's not hard to hold it. Just remember, if it starts wobbling, that means you need a lower grit because you have too much irregularity and it starts dancing because it cannot go through it fast enough. Okay, thank you. And next Sunday we'll do something, we'll actually make something. This was just a how-to tips and tricks. Okay, thank you so much, and I shall see you next Sunday. Have a wonderful what's left of the Sunday. And stay safe, please. Goodbye.